Well, good afternoon, guys. This afternoon, we're going to go ahead and take care of a little problem with a power steering. We're going to go ahead and replace a power steering pump on a 2009 Cadillac CTS. Let me go ahead and show you guys. Well, guys, this here is a car in question. We're going to go ahead and replace that little power steering pump. It's somewhere in there, guys. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and remove this little air cleaner bezel, little tube, remove this little power steering reservoir and that little bracket down here so that we can access that pulley and remove that pulley. Well, here, guys, we're going to use an 8mm with a little impact driver. Get this little tube out of the way and pull this little breather off. Pull this sucker out and open up a little bit more space. Well, guys, on this one I don't have a very clear view, so I can't really show you that well, but if you reach under this little reservoir over here towards the engine side, it's got a little 10mm bolt holding it in place, and over here on this side it's got it looks like a 17mm, maybe 18 nut holding a bracket that is actually attaching this little reservoir to the engine block. So we're going to take this little 10mm bolt and this 18mm nut off so we can go ahead and pull this off and off to a side to be able to get this bracket out of the way. Here, guys, we got the little 10mm bolt. Go ahead and remove it. Now that we got this loose, we can just go ahead and pull this off a little bit. It's got two clamps here and here, 3/8 hose, and this one looks like maybe a 5/8 hose. We're gonna go ahead and remove it. There is gonna be some oil that's gonna spill, but just make sure you get some kind of catch can or something under it, a pan, drain pan, get that oil and not make a mess. So, all right, there. Push this out of your way, and now we got to get this one here. This one here has a bolt down here, which is feels like a 13, and this one here, that's where the nut, the 18mm nut, was on, holding that little reservoir, and it also holds this little bracket. So let me get this 1/2-inch little bolt out of here and get this bracket out of the way. It's almost out. There we go. And now this one's loose. Just go ahead and drop it off to one side. Well, if you want, you can go ahead and take it off, but I just push it off to the side. Now we can see the power steering pulley. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove that belt and go ahead and extract that pulley off of that power steering pump. To extract the pulley, all it is I don't know if you can see this, guys, but well, give me 1 second. Let me back this out a bit. Now, come on, back it out a bit more. Get those little half moons over that pulley. Get the hose clamp on there to hold them in place. And if you want, tighten your clamp so it doesn't loosen up on you. And there you go. When you tighten this bolt, hold on to this nut right here, tighten this bolt, it's going to pull that pulley right off that power steering pump. Well guys, the way this works, I already moved the belt. The belt's completely off. The way that works is you see that little crescent wrench? I'm holding that nut in the back. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I get this wrench, it's 5/8, on that little bolt, and I just start to turn it. That little extractor is actually pulling that pulley off of that pump. That's the only way these suckers are going to come out. You can't force them off, pry them off, or nothing like that. You gotta use this little power steering pulley puller thing off to remove it. And there he goes. Pulley is off. All right. Let me take this extractor and show you a little close-up of the pulley. All right. You see that little groove right there? That's where these little C-notches. Grab a hold of the back of that and pull. That's what pulls it right off. Well guys, let me go ahead and figure this out. See how many bolts are on that pump, and we'll go ahead and start removing that one. Well, and this one guys has got 2 1/2-inch or 13mm bolts in front of that pump. One on top, one on the bottom. Let me loosen those 2 and hopefully we luck out and those are the only 2, because the pump itself does have some bolts in the back of it, and those are going to be somewhat of a pain. So got the bottom one loose, got the top one loose, and this pump doesn't move. So this bracket, this whole bracket here has to come off to be able to get to the 2 back bolts and get that pump completely off. I can see. Well guys, on the bolt back here, I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's a bolt back here. You got to use a wrench. Ratchet won't go in there. Break it loose, and hopefully you'll be as lucky as I am, and the bolt will be, I'll be able to remove this one by hand. All I did was kind of break it loose with a wrench, and that sucker's coming right out. So well guys, I did have to take the whole bracket out. There's a 3rd bolt. I kind of took it off and I forgot to hit record, but I'll show you in a bit where that bolt was. It was a 15mm and it's back here. It's a little hard to get to, but I mean, we have to get it. I already got this thing off. Pump and bracket. Well guys, bracket, and we got the pump off of it. So let me just go ahead and get this little hose off, put it on that new pump, and start installing it. Well guys, now we got this pump, we got the hose back on it. Got to go get this bracket back in place. Get this rear bolt back in place. Well, I can get all of them back in place. This is the one that was in back. That's the one we have to remove the whole bracket for. Got this one back on. Let me go ahead and install those 2 front ones. Give me a second. Let me grab the bolts real quick. These suckers go in here. Guys, let me tighten. Well guys, now that we got this pump back in this bracket, this bracket kind of slides into place. It's not that hard to get. I mean, This one slides in. It slid out pretty easy, so I'm hoping it slides back in pretty easy, and it did. Now, these are the 15mm bolts. I'm going to get this front one so it can kind of stay in place. Get it somewhat started. There's that one. And then we got these two. The longer one goes in back. This one goes in front. So let me go ahead and get this one first. This one goes right here. I don't know if I can get you guys a... I may have to turn the camera off because... Nah, I got it. I got it. I think I got it. I wish I could give you guys a better view, but these things are very, very tight in space. The bolt that I'm working with is that one right there, guys. It's in a very, you see where the oil filter case is? Right under it. I'm getting it in by hand, but it's, I mean, I'm barely getting it in. Maybe one little eighth of a turn at a time. Let me go ahead and finish that up, and then we'll tighten these two in front, get them all tightened up, and continue. Bear with me, guys. Start installing that pulley back on there. We use a different tool to install it. I'll show you guys in a bit. Let me just get these bolts tightened, and we'll continue, guys. That pulley back in place. What I do is I add a little bit of oil in there so that it'll slide in a little bit easier. And let me show you what we do. On this one, guys, we use this installer. This screws into the power steering, and then once we get it on there, the pulley's going to be here. We go ahead and start tightening this nut, and it's going to push that pulley back into place. And basically you just keep going until this thing bottoms out, and that's going to leave that power steering shaft right on the edge of the lip of the outer power steering pulley. Basically just kind of set this one in place and screw it in, and voila. Hold this with a 5/8. Hold the outer bolt with a 5/8 and turn that inner one, and it'll take it in. Let me show you guys if I can find my tools. There we go. Let me see if I can get you a decent view. I hope my hands are not on the way. This, I'm going to use a crescent wrench. I don't have my wrench on me at the moment. And all you do is just and there you go, guys. It's going in. And let me go ahead and get this done, and I'll show you once it's done. Once we get it all the way in, all you do is remove the tool. Shaft is all the way to the edge. We're done with that part. We can go ahead and get that belt back on and start the reassembly of all the components that we removed. So let me go ahead and get that belt on. Well, guys, belt is back on. We can go ahead and get this little apparatus back in place. Remember, it just went in there. 12mm bolt inside. Let me get that bolt. Let me get a socket. And let me get this little baby in there. Well guys, we got that one. Now we can get that little reservoir back in place. You guys remember this one? We had pushed the hose down, pop it in. This one on this side. Pop it in and get those clamps on there. And we can almost call this one done. Almost. Well guys, this car's pretty much done. Let's go ahead and crank the sucker over and see what it's going to do. We might hear some strange noises, power steering pump whining, stuff like that. There you go guys, I'm turning the wheel, no noise. Now I gotta check for leaks. If there's no leaks, this is pretty much done. Well guys, that was the end for that Cadillac. Had to come in and cool down a bit. It's a little too hot out here. I mean 100, 105 give or take. So that was the end of that car. There's no leak, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn it back into the owner. And well, thank you guys for watching, and like and comment.